What up, big dogs? I'm your host, Coach Craig, and this is Athletes Unleashed. On today's episode, my guest is a high school student and standout basketball player. We discuss his transition from role player to team leader, his pursuit of basketball as a way to thank his parents, understanding that the ball isn't always going to bounce his way, and being recognized not only as a basketball player, but more importantly, as a person. Please enjoy my conversation with Deven Strong. So for you now, you're a high school senior, play basketball.
Yeah.
You are in a role now where you're kind of the team leader. You're arguably the star player for Hart High School. And you are someone that I think doesn't necessarily present themselves as a loud or brash leader.
Yeah.
You lead by example.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in your journey, how you got to where you are now as like the guy for your team, and if you were always kind of that player, if it just evolved over time.
Yeah, so growing up, like playing club basketball and stuff, and like city league and stuff like that, like rec, I was always like, I was good. Like I wasn't bad, but I wasn't the guy. Like I usually wasn't the leading scorer. I wasn't always having the ball in my hands. Like people weren't like, oh yeah, that kid's like really good. I was usually like most of the time just a shooter, and that really like, I feel like I could be more. I always thought I could be more because I was always working hard, but it wasn't like my coaches weren't seeing it. So when the coaches weren't seeing it, it was kind of like I was questioning myself.
Yeah.
As in like, okay, like, and like I guess this is just my role. Like I just have to be this. And then I'll say freshman year, right after COVID, I was like coming into Hart. There wasn't really anybody who was like super like above me, in my opinion. And then the coach also saw that. So I became, I was the point guard, so I was one of the like leaders. I had the ball in my hand a lot. And that like started me being a leader, but I wasn't really a leader. I was just like, okay, like I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna try and score.
Yeah.
And then JV, sophomore year, I started to become more of a leader because my coach, he kind of pushed for me to become a leader. And I saw that some of my teammates weren't, not as skilled, but they just weren't as experienced and have played as much basketball as me. So then, but I was still kind of like, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna score the ball. Like, that's how I'm gonna make my contribution. And then junior year, we had this kid, his name's Jacob. He was like the best player. It was like, I haven't seen someone that I really respected like that, like on the court. So it was kind of like, oh, his spot solidified as the guy, like he's gonna lead us. And then I was just gonna take the back seat. And then when he needs the pressure off of him, I was kind of like that guy to take off the pressure. Yeah. And then in a fall game, right before season started, he got injured and he tore his ACL, so he was out for the season. And then that kind of forced me into a position where I had to grow up fast, kind of, and I was like thrown into the fire. Right. And I had to become this leader, and I had to lead the team. I had to have the ball in my hands, and it really like showed what I was made of. Like it was about to show what I was made of, and it was like a rude awakening, kind of, because in our first game, I only had 4 points. Like that was one of the worst games I've ever played up until that point. Yeah. And I kind of like questioned myself. It was like, okay, can I really do this for the whole season? And I just like thought back to all the times when I was just the role player and I wanted to be more. Like this is what I asked for, so I kind of have to, like, this is what I have to do. Yeah. Like it may not always be like sunshine and rainbows. Like I'm not gonna like be the best. Like it's not gonna be the best outcome or the outcome that I want all the time. But this is what I asked for, so I have to deal with it.
Yeah. That's sometimes the burden that you have to bear when you're the guy is when you have an off night. Everybody is well aware. Yeah. But I have a couple questions like throughout the journey, because we'll get to where you are right now. You're in your senior year, starting, it's the beginning of basketball season. You've already kind of set the tone with an amazing game, and I think people are finally really seeing what you are made of. But one of the things you mentioned playing club basketball was the coaches not seeing things in you, right? You believed you had more to offer. You were putting in the work. You're a very hard worker. And I want to get into your mindset around hard work as well. But you were talking about the coaches not seeing the ability in you, and then that making you question your own ability. Do you know why they weren't seeing it? Do you have an inkling? Like, you said, we were talking before, and you said you don't look like most the expectation for really high level basketball players. Do you think it was your appearance, or just the way that you played, or the fact that you have a little bit more of a humble, quiet demeanor, or was it just why do you think they were overlooking you?
I think it's a mix of all, like, of what you said, but I think a lot of the time it's my appearance. Like, I don't look like the best player. I'm scrawny, like, I'm skinny. I don't jump high. But so yeah, it was kind of that, and also I'm not loud, like. And I kind of just sat back and I accepted that I was just a role player, and I didn't try to go out of that. Even though I wanted to, I just didn't have the confidence, or like that just wasn't me. Like, I wasn't the type of person to just go, oh, like, I don't care about you and you, like, I'm gonna do what I want so I can become better, like, have a better role.
Yeah, you're a humble guy. I think the reality is, for basketball teams and really most sports, you need players on the team who are going to do things that other people won't. You need role players. You need a guy who can knock down shots in the corner. Not everybody gets to be the star player with the ball in their hands. And sometimes it takes somebody with a little bit more humility or a little bit more willingness to sacrifice to say, even though I believe I'm capable of doing more for this specific team or this group of players or this coach, my role is diminished. And not everybody can accept that. But true team players know, okay, even if I can do more in this specific environment, these are the requirements for me, and I need to do this to the best of my ability. So I'm sure, even though you felt like you had more to offer, when the coaches say this is what we need from you, you're just going to do that to the best of your ability.
Yeah. And it was also like kind of like a thing where I was scared if I did try and go out of my comfort zone or out of my role, if I failed, it would have a negative effect on, say, my playing time, or my role might change and I might have less of an impact.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like when you are the star player, or you have the coaches have higher expectations, the team has higher expectations, you obviously, like, they are believing that you're going to be able to do these things, but I think you have a little bit longer leash too to make mistakes, and like, oh, they get to shoot more, they get more opportunities, they get more chances, but it's because we know what they're capable of, and if they get enough attempts, they'll be able to do what they do. And when you're a role player, the expectation is when you get the ball, you make the shot, and if you can't make it, we'll find somebody else who can.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Because, like, being that I was a role player, but I've also been the guy, I've seen both sides of it. So it's like, when you're the guy, you can kind of, like, I've done stuff, like, I was like, oh, like, why did I do that? Like, that was the dumbest thing I could have done. But I had no, like, there was no effect on me. Like, coaches still trusted me. They didn't really get on me, or maybe they'll chew me out, but they're not going to take me out the game or tell me, like, oh, like, we don't need him in the game anymore. Yeah,
they might tell you not to do what you just did, but they're not going to yank you. Yeah. Whereas if you're the, the number 5 guy in the rotation and you're doing crazy shit on the court, they're probably just going to yank you off and put somebody else in.
Go get him out, and he won't come back in.
Now, I mean, like, so you took on that leadership role when there was an injury, and now you're kind of seeing it from the other side, where you are the guy, and there is expectations for you, and you do get a little bit more leeway to make mistakes and put up bad shots and, take chances. For the role players on your team now, do you view them differently, or do you lead them differently because you were them at one point? Do you find that, like, dynamic is different, and are you able to encourage them or support them in a different way because you experienced it already?
Yeah, I definitely feel for some of the guys on my team that are role players, or they don't get as much opportunities to show what they can do. But I think I feel more, it's not as much as like every role player, it's more of the guys that I see that really care, and they're really putting in the work to like get a better role, but they're just not getting that opportunity. And I think that's just like if you're a role player but you're not really doing what it takes to become more than a role player, then it's like I don't have as much sympathy for you.
Sure.
Because you're accepting that role and you're not trying to do anything about it. But I think for me, like I was working to become more than a role player, and I still was just a role player. So I feel more for those type.
Yeah. Well, and you just never know when your opportunity is going to come. You weren't obviously it was a pretty freak injury when you said Jacob got hurt. You know, you just don't expect those things. You know, you don't plan for those things to happen. They just happen, and then once it's there, whoever's going to step up is going to step up.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's one thing I would say to all the role players out there is be ready for your moment. Obviously, you have a job to do. Like, you have responsibilities regardless of the sport you play. Like, whatever your job is, the expectation is you do it to the best of your ability. But at any one moment, something can happen, and all of a sudden, your responsibilities change. And the question is, have you been putting in the work to be ready for when that moment comes?
Yeah.
So, you talked about you've always been a really hard worker, but you don't present as, you know, a dominant kind of basketball body or demeanor. Like you said, you're not super loud or flashy on the court. You just kind of handle your business. Has that always been like a purposeful mentality for you? Or is that just who you are and it's how you like to play?
I think that's just how I was raised.
Yeah.
My parents, they're really hard workers, but they don't like to, you know, flash that they made it. Like they have humble beginnings, and they really like instill into me like hard work, but also stay humble.
Yeah.
Because hard work is like they tell me I could do anything as long as I work hard. So, and what I want to do is become a good basketball player, so I work hard at that. And it's just like that's just how I was raised, like to be humble and work hard, and your hard work will pay off in a sense. I
mean, it's good. I think a lot of myself included, you're shaped and molded by your parents, and your outlook on things is usually similar to their own. And I know, like for me, my father was a good athlete, but he has physical ailments that prevented him from progressing, I think, as far as he would have liked. And so he wanted to instill in me the things necessary to be successful. And I think he also saw like what he learned from playing sports, and that it applied to more than just being an athlete, like it applies to your life. And so he wanted to instill those values in me, and he wanted me to not only enjoy being an athlete and enjoy playing sports, but to learn something from it and to challenge myself with it. But because he could only reach a certain point, I know that as supportive as he was of me, I think there was an aspect of him who wanted me to go far because he couldn't. For your folks that come from humble beginnings, were either of them athletes, and how does their relationship with you like interact with your playing now?
My dad, he was like a basketball player. I don't know how good he was. He said he was really good.
They always say they're really good.
They're good. And then my mom, she wasn't really an athlete, but she still supports me in my basketball stuff.
Yeah.
But my dad, he really he lives like through me in basketball.
Yeah.
So he's always trying to work out with me. He's always trying to like tell me, like give me tips on what to do so I can go farther than he did.
Right.
And you know, he's really proud of me, but that also comes with this kind of like pressure of having the weight of your career, but also like kind of like your dad's in yourself. So when I don't perform to my best, it kind of feels like I'm disappointing him in a way, because he wants me to, you know, pursue further in basketball.
Sure.
And if I'm not on my best, like if I'm not on my A game, I feel like it's just like it's that kind of disappointment.
Has he ever actually like vocalized that to you, or is that just something that you feel?
It's something that he said that he lives vicariously through me, but he also tells me that he's proud of me all the time. But it's still like hard to, not feel like the disappointment.
Sure. I think it's kind of a universal thing that we all want to be able to perform well, not only for ourselves, but the people who are there supporting us. Yeah. And for a lot of people, their parents are their number one supporters. And when you go out and have a bad game, I know for me, like growing up, because I was a soccer player, my dad wasn't. It was more, baseball wise, he was a big time baseball player. And so if I failed on the baseball field, I felt more disappointment. Like I had let him down in a way. But on the soccer field, not so much. And yet I was still upset with myself. And so I feel like sometimes those lines get a little blurred. Yeah. But it's usually an internal thing. Like I feel bad about this. Yeah. And you're like, I know they're disappointed in me, but they're really not. Like I'm sure he wants you to be successful, but I would imagine he just loves to watch you play, regardless of the results.
Yeah, like I think to myself, he probably thinks like all the time, every time I step on the floor, that I'm the best player out there, even if I don't have a good game. Mm-hmm. But it's still that disappointment. But I mean, it's like, I think my parents is also a thing. They help me, or they're a big part of me in my basketball career, because they have sacrificed so much for me, mm-hmm. whether it was in basketball or just in life in general, and giving me a better life than they had. I think that's really a big reason why I want to pursue basketball more. Yeah. So that I can, even if it's like even if it's not a full athletic scholarship, they don't have to pay for my whole college. Yeah. And that's really like a driving motivator of me in my basketball career.
Yeah, sometimes you want to give back. I mean, they've not only, I'm sure, invested money, but they've invested time and resources, and you're their kid. Like, they want to see you succeed. And I think a lot of students share your mindset on that. They want to achieve an athletic scholarship, not only because it's something that proves that they're good enough. It's something that you've earned, but also it removes a lot of the financial burden that in many cases most people's parents take on for them. And so I can see both your perspective on it, and I think a lot of people would share that it's almost a bit of a gift that you can give your parents for investing as much of themselves into you as they have. Yeah. But that carries pressure with it in itself as well. Like, obviously the goal should be for you to earn that and you to be able to go to college and get an education for free, and be able to play the sport that you love and see how far you can take it and how far you can evolve as a player. But that additional pressure just to perform all the time, but also knowing in the back of your mind, like, I'm trying to do this so that I can maybe not take care of my parents, but I feel like there are a lot of athletes in that position where they're pushing themselves and working hard with the mindset of like, I'm doing this for more than just me. Yeah. And that's a heavy weight to bear. Yeah. Do you find that difficult sometimes? And like you said, you're a super hard worker. Like, I'm sure you're putting in tons of extra work. But do you find there are times where you're just like, I don't have the energy to do this, or I have too much stuff going on in my life, and you want to stop, but like, I have a goal here and I have to keep pushing?
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of like one of those guys where it's like, I don't really want to go to practice. Like, I don't like being at practice a lot. Like, most of the time I'm like counting down the minutes, like, oh, okay, there's only 15 minutes left to practice. But and like, there's also times where I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to this workout right now. Mm-hmm. But I know, like, in the back of my mind, like, this is what I have to do. So, like, again, to help my parents in any way possible that I can. Yeah. Through basketball. And yeah, that's just like, I don't always want to do. It's really draining, mm-hmm. but it's just something that I feel like I have to do.
It's funny you say that, counting down the last 15 minutes. I literally was that guy. 100% was that dude in training. And I tell everyone now, as much as you don't want to go, make sure that you value the time that you have, because there's going to be a time in your life when you can't do it, whether it be physically or because of your schedule or because you have kids or whatever the reason is that's keeping you out of out of the gym and off the court, you're going to look back and be like, dude, what I would give to go to practice and to get those last 15 minutes of practice again. So it's funny to hear you say that, because I was definitely had the exact same mindset when I was your age. And now, like, that I coach, I go to practice and it's fun for me. Like, I look forward to going to practice now. So the mindset is completely flipped for me. But there's also no pressure for me at practice. Like, I'm just having a good time. And I get to help other people, you know, work towards achieving their own dreams. So I would just, anybody who I hear that from, I'm like, dude, I resonate with that really hard. But just be aware that once it's gone, it's gone. So even if you don't want to go, I would recommend trying to enjoy it as much as you can, because that time with your team, you just can't, you don't get that back. Like, there's special moments, you know. Do you have like a special moment like with your team like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Last year, in the CIF playoffs, we lost a close game, and it was one of those games where it's like, if we played this team 1,000 times, we're beating them like 999 times.
Yeah.
They just got us this one time. And it was really sad. Like, the seniors, it was sad to see the seniors go, because I really I really built a bond with those guys that season. And then on the way back on the bus, we stopped at McDonald's, and it's like such a simple thing, like going to McDonald's. Like, anybody goes to McDonald's, but we just like had fun and we bonded, and it wasn't really like we were caring about anything else. It was just like, in that moment, like, we were just having fun, like enjoying ourselves. And that's kind of like, it really showed me that there's more to basketball than just winning and losing and performance and being your best all the time, because at that time all I cared about was performing at my best and you know, going far in the playoffs. And it really just reminded me, like, that I need to calm down, like, live in the moment, kind of like there's more to basketball than just, you know, the outcomes of it.
Sure. Yeah, I think it is interesting when you kind of step away from it. You take a step back and you realize, like, obviously you want to win. You want the results. You want to win championships. You want to do all those things. But when you look back on your time playing, what you will remember is the relationships that you built with people. Like, obviously, if you win something big, like, that's a moment you're never going to forget. But more than that, what you're never going to forget is the people that you won it with. Yeah. You know, so I've been in that similar situation, both as a player and as a coach, where it's like, it's kind of a devastating loss. Season's over, seniors are leaving, and they don't really leave right away. You still see them at school and stuff, you know what I mean? But there's like a kind of a finality to it, where you're like, I'm never going to play with these guys again. And I've been in that moment where it starts to transition from, like, everybody's really upset, and then everybody kind of lets it go, and then all of a sudden you're just kind of in the moment with your friends, and you're like, we should enjoy this, because I don't know how many more times, if any more times, we're going to be able to get to do it. So I will say, like, in retrospect, the further you get away from the game, the more you realize, like, it really is about the experiences and the relationships that you build. And it's nice to hear, you know, I feel like obviously winning is great and celebrating wins are great. I always say that you learn more from losing than anything else, and it's nice to hear, like, you obviously learn a lot about your sport and about the game, and you can, like, make changes to your game and make adjustments and get better from a loss. But also from losing, you can get an understanding that it's more than just a game. Like, it's something that you've dedicated your life to, but it's also about building friendships and a brotherhood and a bond. It's a cool experience. Yeah, like, some of my closest friends, like, they came from basketball. So it's like, also I learn a lot from basketball, like life lessons. Not just, you know, like, winning and losing, like, on the court stuff. It's like a lot of off the court stuff. Like what? I would say just, you know, again, like, with hard work, like, you gotta work hard, but also, like, not everything's gonna go your way. Like, even if you are expected to, say, beat this team, and then you don't, like, it's not always gonna go your way, but that adversity, that kind of builds a character in a way. Like, you kind of need that to grow as a person and as a player, because the players that have never lost, they're kind of like, they walk around, like, with this kind of, this aura, like, that they think they're the guy, or they're the man.
and they're never gonna lose. And then when they do lose, like they don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
And I think like you said, like you can win them or you can learn the most from losing. That's like that builds a lot of character. Because I've lost a lot of games, but I've also won a lot of games.
It is really interesting you say that, because I think basketball specifically is one of those sports where you can go through your career and like never lose. Like you can be on the best AAU team, you can go to a top college and win everything, and then inevitably, like if you were to go the professional route, if you're one of the top players, you're getting drafted usually by one of the worst teams.
Yeah.
And you see players that have won their entire career, never lost, they've always been the guy, they're the best player on every team they've ever been on. Then they go to the league, they're playing on one of the worst teams, and they like legitimately don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know how to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
And to me, as a life lesson, learning how to lose and how to manage loss and how to manage failure is one of those things that is like invaluable. Like it's a necessity, because no matter how long you play or how long you live your life, you're going to lose. Like something, someone, some opportunity is going to slip through your fingers, and then what? Do you crumble? Do you fall away, or do you get stronger? Do you get back in the gym? Do you work hard?
Yeah.
So that mentality of just continuing to work and understanding that it's part of the process. I like thinking of failure as part of the process, because it builds you into a better version of yourself, in my opinion.
Definitely. I also think like with failure, it's like that's like the hardest. I think, well, not really failure. I think one of the hardest things for me in basketball is being a good player, and if you do fail, you kind of feel like the world's gonna end.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm expected to go out on the court and contribute and be the best player, but when I'm not, and that's the reality of it, like you're not always gonna be the best player. And when I'm not, it kind of feels like I'm not worth, like I kind of question myself, like am I even good? Like,
yeah.
I think that's like me having basketball as my identity in a way. And I think that's hard when basketball or your sport's your identity, because when you're not performing to your best, it kind of affects your outside life, outside of sports.
Sure. It's one thing that I talk about all the time with student athletes is, trying to make sure that you realize that you're more than just your sport. You're more than you are more than a basketball player. Like, I think we all know that, but it's difficult when you've associated your self-worth with this thing for so long. And I think it's difficult sometimes, especially when you like play well and you have a great game and you feel awesome about yourself, to not then feel the inverse when it doesn't work, or when you have a bad game. And it's difficult, I think, sometimes to separate those feelings about those feelings of worthiness and that gauge of self-worth from performance.
Yeah.
But and that's one thing I think with younger student athletes that it is to be monitored and needs to be taken into account, is that when they're performing on the field or the court, or in their game, in their match, when they perform well, it usually feels like other things in their life are going well too, academically, socially. Like you feel confident, you feel good about yourself. The concern is what happens when the other thing is going on.
Yeah.
If you're losing, if you're failing, how does that then affect you in the classroom, in your social life, in your home life, and just generally how you feel about yourself? And then it creates a bit of a cycle, because if you're feeling terrible about yourself and your schoolwork is suffering and your social relationships are suffering, you don't want to see people, and then does that affect your practice habits? Does it continue to affect your performance? And now you're playing even worse because everything is kind of building onto itself. So it's a little bit of a vicious cycle, I think, kind of matching your self-worth and your identity directly to your sport. But when it's all you do, it's difficult to not do that. So for you, you're the guy now, right? Like your junior year, you're kind of forced to step into that role, which I'm sure you wanted, but it was just a little bit unexpected how it came to be.
Yeah.
So now you are the guy, and you're playing well, but like you said, not every game is going to be great. Not every game you're going to be the best guy on the court, whether it's because you have a bad game or you're playing against somebody who's just better than you. So how do you manage those feelings, and how do you deal with those feelings when your identity is so closely tied to your performance and to who you are as a basketball player?
I think last year I struggled with it like more. Like when I did play bad, it would affect me for the whole week, and I wouldn't want to show up to anything. But I think I learned more, especially now that I'm a senior and I might not play after high school. I learned that my career is gonna end at some point. Like the ball isn't always gonna keep bouncing for me. So I have to learn that I'm gonna be like, this is just a small portion of my life. And though it may be really important to me now, when I'm like old, when I have a family, I'm not gonna be thinking of that one game where I had 0 points or where I didn't do anything. And I think that kind of mindset really helped me understand that I'm not just a basketball player. Like I'm also a person. Like I also do other things other than basketball well. And that my friends, they care for me more than that I'm just a good basketball player.
Yeah, I think your friend, that's a good way to think about it. Like regardless of whether you win or lose, like your friends are going to be there after the game. They're there for you, not because you can score baskets. I think it's a really difficult line for kids to walk. Just the equating your ability and your performance to how you feel about yourself. It's hard, man. But I'm glad to hear that, that experience, probably living in that and feeling bad about yourself and questioning your self-worth. Some people kind of continue to spiral down, and it seems like you've kind of stepped out of it and recognized, okay, basketball is important to me, but it's not everything. And I'm somebody who is extremely competitive, and I hate to lose, and winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. And that mindset is good when it comes to competition, but sometimes I have to take a step back and recognize okay. And for me, coaching is important. I love doing it, and I want to win always. More, actually, I don't want to lose, but more than that, it's the building of relationships, and it's the connections and understanding that you've made an impact on people that I think is what resonates with you long term. So you're in a position now where you are a leader. I imagine you're the captain.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And you are, you have these game-to-game expectations, these season expectations. I'm sure people are projecting you to do great things. And like you said, you don't know if you're going to play beyond in college. The goal is to do that. And hopefully with a good high school season, you'll get some looks and some offers, ideally. But knowing that the success of the team rests a lot on your performance and your leadership skills, have you found yourself throughout the season just kind of continuing to evolve and maybe not become a different player, but find different aspects of your personality and your game to enhance, to bring the other people up around you?
Yeah, definitely, especially now that I'm performing kind of well. I get a lot more pressure, I'm getting double teamed, I'm getting face guarded by a lot of teams. So a lot of the time I'm not scoring as much as I would in a game where I'm not getting double teamed. So it's hard to kind of deal with that when I'm so used to just putting the ball in the basket.
Yeah.
So I have to find other ways to help my team win. And I think as a leader, having that responsibility and having that weight on my shoulders, I have to understand that I can't feel sorry for myself in this moment, and I have to do what's best for my team. And I think I grew a lot with that, especially going from my junior to my senior year. Last year, if things weren't going my way or if I wasn't scoring the ball, I would kind of just give up. And my coaches would see that it looked like I didn't even want to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's more like I just want to win. And even if I'm not having the best game, I'm still trying to do the things that I have to and lead my team to win. So, yeah, that's kind of...
It's good. I mean, that's you can see it's an evolution. Even a single season or a single year, it's an evolution as a player and as a person. Like recognizing when the focus is on you, you might have to become more of a facilitator. You might have to, understanding. It's a lot of times like a lot of the best scorers in the world are also the best distributors because they have to be. Yeah. You can't go through a double team all the time. And I'm sure you're playing teams and you're being guarded by their best player always. It's got to be, and it's one of those things where I feel like it has to be frustrating night to night, where you're just like, man, this guy again, or like they're throwing their best player at you or double teaming you all the time. But understanding like team success over individual success is what's really important to you. Then you can, and I wonder now, do you think your time as a role player, where I'm sure you were more of a facilitator, like your job was to score buckets, but also I'm sure move the ball and find the guy that, was the team leader and was the leading scorer. Do you find that those abilities and that time as a role player in your career leading up to this point allows you to be more flexible as a leader and more flexible as the focal point on the court?
Yeah, it definitely helps me to like deal with that, but it also hurts me in a way. It's also negative because I have that fear of even though I know that I'm not going to lose my role as the leader, it makes me feel like, if I'm not doing enough, I have that fear of becoming a role player again, in the back of my mind. And I think that's just like, it's more negative than it is positive because I learned how to play as a role player, but I don't want to be that again. Right. Not because it's a bad role. Everyone needs a role player. But it's just, I'm in this position now and I enjoy this position more than I did that one.
Yeah. So you thrive on the pressure. You enjoy the pressure because it's what you want.
Yeah.
But with that pressure also comes a lot of fear. Yeah. It's a difficult thing to manage.
Yeah, but that's why I worked for it. I mean, I can't really complain if that's what I worked for and that's what I wanted that at some point. Yeah. So
I feel if you're a good enough player, the expectation is, I want the ball in the tough moments. Yeah. I want the pressure put on me. I want to carry my team. It's still scary though.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, how is your mindset now different when like in the waning minutes and seconds of games, you're getting the ball, like the expectation is you knock down the shot when it has to go in, like that's obviously a substantial amount of pressure, knowing when crunch time is happening, like you're taking the shot. I'm sure that's the expectation.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have a different mindset now, knowing that like when it comes to the crucial moments in the game, you'll have the ball in your hand?
Yeah, I think that's like the best moment for me because I feel like for every athlete, or not every athlete, but like true competitors, like that's, you want the ball in that moment. Sure. Or you want to take that last shot because when it does go in, then that's like you feel like you're on top of the world. But the reality is it won't always go in. You have to deal with that being that you have that shot and you wanted that shot. It's not always going to go in, but
I think that separates the people who are really ready for it and not, is you're not afraid. You know that it there's a good percentage chance it doesn't go in, but you're not afraid to take it.
Yeah,
you want it.
You still have that confidence that that shot that you shoot, it's going to go in. Like you don't have any doubt in your mind that it's going to miss.
It's tough, dude.
Yeah.
But it's good to hear that it's what you want. Like, not everybody is built for that. And you said it. I don't know if it was while we're talking now or earlier today, but you were talking about being a leader, and that you're not your average you know, or you're maybe not in the same way that you don't necessarily have the appearance of a stud basketball player. You also don't lead in the same way, I think, as a lot of other people do. Mm-hmm. You're not super loud, you're not super vocal, you lead by example. In your experience, like, do you find that to be very effective for your team, to you just show up and handle business even if you don't necessarily want to be there all the time?
I think it's hard. Well, it's not hard, but I'm more of a guy, like, when something needs to be said, I'm gonna say it, but I'm not gonna like be that vocal guy that's just always being loud mm-hmm. and always like telling people what to do, because I feel like as a leader you kind of have to tell people what to do, and I that's not really me. Like, I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
But so I try to lead in different aspects. Like, if I see my team not working very hard, I try to like dive on a loose ball or like take a charge, so mm-hmm. it kind of brings the energy up, and it's like an unspoken thing where not many people will notice that. Like, a spectator won't notice that play, but in the moment, the coaches and other players, they'll see, like, as a leader, like that was a changing moment. That's why he is the leader.
Yeah, your team knows. That's, I think, an innate ability of a leader too. Your team knows when they see you. It's the same thing in practice. When the best player out there is working harder than everybody, it's like it's a little message. It's a subtle message to everybody to pick it up. Yeah. Same thing. You picking up a charge, or, you know, full court press, or whatever it might be, and your team sees that. Like, to the average person, they might not recognize it, but the team is going to look at their leader and be like, oh shit, he's putting in extra work. Like, I have to pick my game up, because if I let him down right now, like, he's put it all out there for me. I need to do the same.
Yeah.
Do you find, like, when you were younger and you didn't get to have that role, I'm sure you were still doing the same things, it's just people weren't looking at you the same way. Was that what resonated with you as a role player, to see your leader do something like that? Or were you with guys who were just, you know, they were just going to yell at you all the time?
Yeah, I definitely liked it more when I see a leader do the things that I don't want to do, because mm-hmm. it motivates me to do those things. But I like a mix of both, because a leader, you can't tell someone what to do if you're not doing it yourself, because that's when the team's not going to want to listen to you and you're not
Sure.
going to be a leader. So I kind of keep that in the back of my head, so when I do tell people what to do, or I do get on people, like, I'm doing what I have to do, so I have the right to say that.
Yeah, it's important. I think it is interesting. I feel like your time, it keeps coming back to this. I think your time as not being the guy colors the world you're in now, when you are the focal point of the team. Understanding, like, I'm going to put in this level of work with the expectation that everybody's going to follow. Like, you were always doing that.
Yeah.
And that level of hard work stems from your parents and all the way on down. So it's just interesting to me to see how putting in the dirty work and you know, there are things that people just don't want to do because they suck to do.
Yeah.
But there's a respect level that comes with someone who's willing to put their body on the line, or who's willing to do the dirty work when other people don't want to. And I think that respect is very much heightened when it's the leader of the team, or who is regarded as the best player or the number one scorer, who's also willing to, you know, slap the floor and get down on defense and dive for balls and stuff. Yeah. So you are that guy now. You lead in the way that you lead, by example, by hard work. And you said it before, you don't say a lot, but you feel like you say the right thing in the right moment. Are you just really good at picking spots, or is that just because you have good relationships with your teammates and you know who to push in the right moment and who to support? And like, how do you figure out what's the right thing to say in the right moment?
I kind of like, I'm really close with most of my team, so I know guys' tendencies and which guys can handle me getting on them mm-hmm. and yelling at them, and guys that I kind of need to be more, like, have a softer approach with them so that they don't get as aggressive, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I'm not really, I try to say the right thing in the right moments, but it's not always the right thing. But I think that just my experience and having so much experience with basketball has helped me do that. And it may not always be like a big like thing to say, but it might uplift a couple guys.
Yeah.
And it might make people think like in that moment, like help them make the right choice or make the right play.
Yeah, or give them a little extra boost of confidence
Yeah.
or something. I think it's a good point. You don't always know the right thing to say in the right moment, but the building the relationship with your teammates and being close to people and them understanding that you're willing to sacrifice for them and vice versa. Even if you say the wrong thing, you know, in the heat of the moment, you say something to somebody, you're like, dude, I probably shouldn't have said that,
Yeah.
or I regret saying that, or whatever. Having that relationship with your teammates allows you to kind of get past that or get through it, or you're able to apologize for it. I mean, I've been there where I've said something to someone or had something said to me, and there is like, you know, you can't help but have like an emotional response to some things. But I remember, you know, vividly saying something to somebody and just us being heated at each other in the moment, and then, you know, 10 seconds pass and we turn and look and it's just like kind of a nod, like, okay, we're beyond that.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's that happened and I didn't mean it, and you know what I meant to say, and it's an understanding because you have the relationship with them. So you find that with you guys?
Yeah, they also don't take things too personal,
Mhm.
which is really nice, because when there are guys that take it personal, it might affect the whole team,
Sure.
because they might have bad body language after that, or they might take their anger that because of something I said out on somebody else, and
Yeah.
it might just be like a domino effect.
Mhm.
So I'm just glad that, yeah, it's not people, they don't take it personal. And I think that's really important as a player,
Yeah.
to not take things on, especially on the court, as personal, or just to realize that in this moment I have to just let that go,
Mhm.
and I can deal with it off the court. But right now, the best thing for my team is that I don't take it as serious.
Yeah, and just move forward and
Yeah.
keep playing.
Yeah.
It's good. So okay, so you're the senior leader now. You guys already had a really big win this season where you scored the game time bucket right at the end, which has got to be a great feeling.
Yeah.
Hitting a butter, there's got to be nothing better than hitting a buzzer beater.
Yeah.
But do you have obviously the goal is to do as well as you can this season. You guys want to win league. Hopefully, if you win league, you'll be named league MVP. You want to go far in the playoffs, and then the goal is to continue on. You want to go to college. Do you know kind of what you want to study, or you know, is the goal to eventually try and play professionally, or do you just want to play basketball in college so that you have the opportunity to get a good education, study what you're interested in, and be able to move forward with your life?
That's kind of like a big decision, and the kind of thing that I've been thinking about a lot,
Mhm.
because being right now, I don't have that much interest from schools. So I do want to play after high school as far as I can, as far as my career takes me.
Mhm.
But I also have to have that thought of, if this doesn't work out, I have to have things that I have to have a backup.
Yeah, you need to be prepared.
And I'm trying to pursue nursing as well. So I'm in this dilemma where if I do quit, it's like a hard decision to make, because basketball is all I know.
Sure.
And also going back to that disappointment with my dad, like if I do decide not to play after high school, it might seem like me giving up
Mhm.
in a way, when it's really not. It's just something that basketball, I'm grateful for this, and it's given me a lot and it's taught me a lot.
Mhm.
But at some point it has to come to an end.
Yeah.
But ideally I really want to play in college.
Yeah. So if an offer doesn't come for a 4-year university, are you going to plan on going to junior college, community college, to be able to pursue, you know, potentially continue to build yourself as a player for an opportunity to play at the next level?
Yeah, the junior college route, it's kind of a tough decision for me, because it's also a grind.
Yeah.
Like I see a lot of junior college guys, and they're working really hard, and they may be good, but it's still a grind. Like you have to show up every day,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not in the position that you want to be in.
Sure.
So, and I've also been dealing with that grind all throughout high school, And it's kind of like a thing that I don't know if I want to go through that again.
Yeah.
Because there's still no guarantee that I'm going to get a scholarship after my 2 years in junior college.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just hard.
Yeah, you got a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah.
It is crazy to me sometimes where you have young kids like yourself, and you usually, I mean, for a lot of people, you don't have to make a ton of decisions in your own life, and then all of a sudden you have to make all these decisions that are going to affect you, you know, your education and your playing career and what you want to do after school, and it's kind of like one decision after another. It's difficult to kind of map out your entire life when you're 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
But, you know, I hope for your sake you get to continue to play, because clearly you love the sport, and I think you are a good ambassador for it. Like, I think you represent everything that's good with sports. You know, how much you can learn from it, your work ethic, and the fact that your development as an athlete can mirror your development as a person. And that's just, for me, that's what I stress to people all the time. Like, we were talking about earlier with identity, like, you might identify as a basketball player now, but what happens when you're not one anymore? Like, you're still you're still the person that learned all those things, that went to all those practices, that put in all those hours and dedicated yourself and defined yourself as a hardworking person. Not being a player anymore doesn't take that away from you.
Yeah.
So that transition can be difficult, but it's tough to have to make those decisions.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I hope for your sake you get an opportunity to play at the next level. It sounds to me like it's well deserved. So I'm interested to see how the season plays out and where you're headed to next, man. So I appreciate you being open and candid with us today. I like to wrap up every episode with a piece of advice. So I think especially for your story, there are a lot of kids who've been in your position where they feel like they can do more, they feel like they have more to offer, and that if they just got that opportunity, they could show everybody what they're really capable of. And you're that guy who, for whatever the circumstances, you got your chance and you took it and you made something of it. So do you have a piece of advice for other people who might be in a similar situation to yourself?
Something that I would say is just to work hard, because hard work is something that you can't deny. Whether you're gifted in whatever you're doing or you're not, you can always work hard, and you could always outwork other people. And life really isn't fair, but with hard work, you can get an opportunity, and eventually your hard work will pay off, even if it's not overnight. Over time, it will build up, and it will benefit you in the long run. And not only just in sports, but also just in anything you do. Like, if you work hard, good things will come from it.
I could not agree more. I think that it comes back to, you know, the things that you learn in sports carry over to your life. Like, building a good, strong work ethic as an athlete is something that's going to benefit you down the road. Like, whatever you end up doing with your life, and whether it be your dedication to your career or to your family or whatever you're passionate about in your life, is going to be, you know, I'm sure you'll be great at it, and you will have success in it as a direct result of how hard you've been willing to work to achieve the things you want to achieve. And, you know, there's different levels of talent and different levels of ability, but work ethic and a willingness to work hard and a relentless work ethic, you're right, it can't be denied. No one can ever fault you for not working hard, even when you don't want to. And I think that willingness, regardless of how you feel about it, to keep showing up and to keep busting your ass and to keep working hard, it's not only a very respectable trait, but it's a necessity. Like, the best of the best in whatever field, sports or otherwise, are hard workers. Just is the way it is. And, you know, even when you don't want to, you have to challenge yourself to keep working. So
it also comes with, respect comes with it. Like, people see that you're working hard. It's like, oh, even if this guy, he doesn't get what he wants, like, he's a hard worker. Like,
you said that earlier about teammates, you know, guys in roles. Like, you as a leader, as someone who wasn't always the leader, but you as a leader now, I'm sure look around and you respect the guys who are showing up every day. You can tell. It's like, this guy might not be the most talented, and he might miss the shot in the big moment, but he deserves the opportunity because of how hard he works. And I think respect goes both ways. Like, they see you work hard, like, you know, like we were talking about on the court, you take a charge, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh shit, Deven's taking charge, like we better pick it up. So I love that. Hard work is undeniable, and it does breed respect. Like, if your leader isn't willing to work themselves to the best of their ability, why are you going to follow them?
Yeah. It's also like really respectful for my teammates, because as the leader, as the guy who gets all the opportunities, I don't even want to be at practice, but they're also showing up as people who don't have as much of a long leash as I do.
Yeah, it gives you a little different perspective, but you were that guy too. So I feel like your perspective is very interesting, because you weren't always the dude, and you were the guy who was showing up to practice and working hard when you might not wanted to be there, and not getting the opportunity to take all those shots, and not getting, you know, the ball in the crucial minutes when I'm sure you wanted it. And so, you know, that level of respect starts early. You have to understand, like, hard work is something, and trust me, from a coaching perspective as well, it's very evident who works hard and who doesn't. And even from when you show up to practice and you can see the different levels of player there, it's like, oh, not only does this player work hard in practice, but they're putting work in off the court as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you get grade reports and you're looking and it's like, hey, this kid's got great grades and they work really hard, it's like, we don't have to worry about this player. I never have to worry about your effort or your output. And that, to me, as a coach, is a nice thing, because I know no matter, regardless of what mood or mindset you're in, when you show up, whether you want to be there or not, you're going to give it everything you have. And that, to me, is a valuable trait from a coach's perspective for players, because I never have to worry about whether or not you want it. And there's just a different, you see it all the time. I watch games all the time. You can see there's a different level of desire in certain players, and that just stems back to how hard you're willing to work. So I think it's a great piece of advice, man. Hard work is undeniable. It's factual. I appreciate you, man. It was awesome today. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Good job, man.
Did it.
It was not so bad, right?
I was nervous.
Huge thank you to our guest, Deven Strong, our producer, Malin Blade, and all the big dogs listening. Tune into our next episode for more Athletes Unleashed. Later, homies.